Hey guys, welcome to the Refined Savage. Today we're going to talk about glide shot putting or glide stone putting. So our last video series we talked about the Braemar Stone Put. When I was in the sport before, we had a lot of people doing a South African style spin technique or a glide stone put. When I left the sport for a couple years and came back, I noticed that most people had tried to go to a full rotational stone put, or they were doing some kind of weird shuffle technique with the stone. So what I wanted to do is do a video on the glide stone put and how it can help you with your throws. So the reason why the glide over the rotational shot put. So the rotational stone put or shot put is a very difficult concept to master. It's good to have a watchful professional coach who can make sure you're doing things correctly. It's very difficult to master at a later age. And when you look at the rotational stone put, you're having to look at the fact that we are Highland Games athletes and we're competing on grass. So you're dealing with a different set of turf conditions every time you step on the field, weather conditions, and the rotational stone put is very difficult when under pressure. So you have to have everything hit on all cylinders for that stone to go far. The glide, it's a little bit less movement, it's a little bit easier to learn. And for someone who doesn't have an extensive throwing background, it's a little bit better under pressure. So you're not having all these different cogs and wheels in motion. The stone put's a little bit more, the glide stone put is a little bit more up front and you can get the job done easy. Our first video was on the Braemar Stone. And the Braemar Stone we talked about being different than a standing throw drill for either your rotational or your glide shot put. The Braemar Stone is going to be a lot closer for your release and setup for the glide stone put than it is a rotation. So if you haven't checked out the Braemar Stone video yet, the link's in the bottom. You can go ahead and check that out. So your Braemar Stone Put technique is going to be very similar to the power position you're going to land in when you do your glide shot put. So let's talk about the start of the throw. The glide position, you're going to start in the back. There's a wide range of ways you can start the glide. So you're going to see some people do a much more dynamic start where they'll start in an upright position and drop right into the throw. Whereas other people might do a T formation where it's a slower start to the glide. No matter how you start the glide, it's all going to be personal preference and how to get to the middle better. So whatever position is going to get you to the middle better is the way you should do it. And I would try several different starting positions in the back just to see what gets you to the middle in a better, quicker position. So no matter how you start the throw, the key to the throw is keeping the ball in the proper position throughout the throw. So you want that ball, once it's on your chin, to be behind your right hip if you're a right-handed thrower the whole time. You can't let that ball drift to the left of that right hip, otherwise you're going to lose a lot of that torque you're going to develop throughout the throw. So once you have the ball placed on your chin, starting position in the back, you want to think about the ball being behind the right hip the entire time. Keeping it back there, keeping your eyes forward on a focal point about 6 feet in front of your right foot. Okay, so now you have the ball behind your right hip. You figured out what start is going to be best for you. Now let's talk about getting to the middle. So getting to the middle, you're driving off that front leg, pushing back over the heel. Okay, so you've got to drive backwards over the heel with your hips low. Once your body has pushed back over the heel, you're going to bring that leg back under you and try to land with your foot turned slightly to the left with your knee underneath your belly button. So you want to get that power leg under your center of gravity. A lot of times people will glide and they'll end up with their upper body significantly behind that right leg. Get the right leg underneath you tucked. When you land in the middle, your right foot is going to be turned slightly to the left. And again, the ball is going to be behind your hip. Okay, so now we've gotten to the middle. We're in that good Braemar Stone Put position. Right leg slightly turned, with your foot slightly turned to the left. Leg underneath you. Left arm stretched out in front of you. with the right hand on your neck with the ball and the ball behind your hip. Once we've gotten to that position, it's time to lift and explode into the throw. Now, a lot of times what will happen is people will start too fast out of the back. By the time they get to the middle, they're starting to slow down a little bit. Don't make that mistake. Start off nice and slow, drive over that right heel. Once you get to the middle, now it's time to turn it up and get some speed into the throw. At least until you're comfortable with the technique. So we're going slow to fast. So once we're in the middle, now we're going to think about turning that right foot, exploding up, driving the hip into the air, getting a big open chest, driving the left elbow around, and extending through the ball and giving up that shoulder at the end. When you release the ball, there's two different schools of thought here. You can either do a non-reverse throw, where you hit that block super hard and drive the right side around, or you can reverse your feet at the end. I would start with a non-reverse, keep hitting it harder and harder until you start to naturally reverse on your own, if you do it at all. But either way, just like the back of the circle, the front of the start of the throw, how there's some individuality there, at the end of the throw you can have some individuality there as well, okay? So if it feels good to non-reverse, do that. If you have to reverse out, you can do that as well. There's been some great throwers both ways. You think of Ken Lowther and Craig Smith, who were non-reverse stone putters and threw very far, and then you had Sean Betts, who hit a big giant reverse at the end, and he threw well as well. So it's just all dependent on how your body works. Okay guys, so that's glide stone putting 101. So if you have any questions, always feel free to give me a holler. You can get a hold of me at refinedsavagelife@gmail.com. Just shoot me an email, I'll be glad to help with you, or find me on Facebook or Instagram, I'll be able to help you. So that's it for glide stone putting. What we're doing, if you haven't checked out the Megan Tomei podcast, go check that out. Speaking of shot putters, she's a great one. So go check that out on therefinedsavage.com or wherever you get your podcast from. Up on the website is Beast of Bluegrass shirts for $17 plus shipping and handling. So check those out. Super soft shirts. Cool logo on the back, Whiskey Bent, Kentucky bound. Also, we have the New Girls tanks up there in blue and black, 2 different designs. Check those out, and that's at therefinedsavage.com, and we'll see you next week.